friends, and welcome to my guide on warrior DPS techniques for turn 13. This guide is aimed towards people already familiar with the encounter and that are looking to push their DPS limits even further. This guide also aims for an HP threshold of 10,400 life. The tips suggested in this video are by no means the best or only way to do this encounter. These techniques are simply the ones I use most and have become comfortable with, resulting in high damage output. So, let's get started. First things first, the opener. The opener I use can be found on the annotation or in the description below. The only difference is that I use Path combo instead of Butcher's Block. This is to ensure that I do not steal hate from the Paladin, and also, Path is amazing in turn 13. You can also take this a step further and do what I call the Dream Pull. This is where you use Infuriate, then at 1 second left on Wrath, activate Vengeance. Then wait until you have 20 seconds left on Wrath, then pull. This will allow you to get in 2 Inner Beasts by activating Infuriate during the Berserk window. It's the dream. So in phase 1, it's pretty standard. I just rotate I and Path while keeping Fracture up at all times. If you get targeted by Earthshaker in this phase, you need to go to Jethrod's School of Puddle Placement. It is an art school that specializes in placing puddles like painting a picture. Here, let me show you. I call this one Mickey's Molten Love, dedicated to Marby. Depending on DPS, you may skip the Mega Flare or immediately after push the phase. If this is the case, be careful when you activate Berserk and be sure to call out for a cleanse if you are pacified during Giga Flare. Picking up the ad while being pacified is pretty silly. So in phase 2, I pick all the ads up with Defiance on. Depending on where I am in my combo, I will use Skull Sunder, Overpower, or Butcher's Block cancel to get initial aggro. If it's available, I'll use Unchained as well. If Unchained is on cooldown, I will use Inner Beast, then immediately turn off Defiance. The ad should die pretty quickly, so the Inner Beast buff will be enough. For the second ad and third ad, you can use Thrill of Battle and Convalescence for one, then Vengeance on the other. Use Unchained on the first ad that is available for. After this, it's pretty basic. You'll stay out of Defiance the entire time unless tanking an ad. I just rotate I and Path while keeping Fracture up at all times. I always use Berserk after an ad is dead. So for example, I would typically only Berserk once during this phase and it will be after the second ad dies. The reason I do this is because you will get the full 20 seconds of uninterrupted Berserk. For phase 3, I normally keep Defiance on the entire time. Not for the HP, but to ensure I have snap aggro. Everything in this phase dies so incredibly fast, I honestly don't think there's very much room to improve overall damage on. I really only get between 3 to 5 GCDs on any one enemy. I also lose a lot of damage by having to group the ads up. However, I can say that when I was learning the fight, I would activate Berserk on the Sins to make sure they died sooner. On the next set of ads, it's pretty much the same thing. Everything dies extremely fast, excluding the Storm. But since I'm not attacking the Storm as much as the Raid, it is very hard to keep my DPS numbers up sometimes. So if your damage sucks in this phase, that's normal. You'll make it up in the last phase. When I pick up the Sin and drag it over to the Storm, I normally use Unchained here and Berserk shortly after. This will allow you to do massive damage to both the Sin and the Pain. Ideally, you want the Pain dead before the dive bomb goes out or shortly after. If DPS is a bit slow here, I would recommend activating Vengeance. It will make healing you a joke while dodging dive bombs, and it will also increase DPS slightly to kill it faster. In Phase 4, it is a lot like Phase 1 with a couple of differences. I will always be out of Defiance unless I am taking the 1st, 3rd, or 5th Akmorn, or I get targeted by Earthshaker. Other than that, it is pretty basic. Out of Defiance, you should be able to take the tether damage no problem. For the 2nd Akmorn, you will Holmgang it, so you don't need Defiance here either. As far as DPS cooldowns go, I always save Berserk for after the Earthshaker targets. The last thing you want is to activate Berserk, then get targeted by Earthshaker and have to run away from the boss. If you're not targeted, go Super Saiyan. I save my Unchained for the first Giga Flare. Doing this allows me to do max damage while building up Wrath and preparing for the 3rd Akmorn. Well friends, that's about it. I hope this guide was helpful and will lead to some fat deeps. If you have anything you do to increase CPS that I haven't mentioned, please leave it in the comments below. Peace guys.